The ultimatum. The morning sky over Chicago transformed from clear blue to an ominous shadow at precisely 9:17 a.m., not from clouds, not from an eclipse, but from something far more terrifying. Office workers pressed against windows, pedestrians stopped in their tracks, and drivers abandoned vehicles in the middle of streets, all to gaze upward at the impossible sight. A massive vessel, stretching nearly 3 miles across, hovered silently above the city skyline, blocking the sun and casting the metropolis into an artificial twilight. Within minutes, reports flooded in from New York, London, Beijing, Moscow, Sydney, and dozens of other major population centers. The ships, identical in their sleek, obsidian design, had appeared simultaneously worldwide, positioning themselves over the most densely populated human cities. Global communications remained functional but chaotic as panic spread across continents. In the Pentagon's Crisis Command Center, General Diana West stared at the wall of screens displaying live feeds from around the world. Her weathered face remained stoic, but her knuckles whitened as she gripped the edge of the tactical table. "Status report," she demanded. Colonel Jenkins cleared his throat. 37 identical ships in position over major cities. No aggressive actions yet. Air forces worldwide are scrambled but maintaining distance as ordered. Nuclear forces at ready status. And communications. Nothing yet, but Jenkins stopped mid-sentence as every screen in the command center flickered simultaneously. A figure appeared, tall, with iridescent blue-gray skin stretched over an elongated skull. 4 pupil-less amber eyes blinked in unsettling asymmetry. When it spoke, its mouth moved in ways that seemed disconnected from the perfectly articulated English that filled the room. "People of Earth, I am High Commander Zextor of the Zenturian Galactic Empire. Your primitive world is now under our jurisdiction. You will submit to Zenturian authority within 72 Earth hours, or face obliteration. Resistance is not merely futile, it is inconceivable against our superior technology. Your military capabilities are less than insects to us. Your planet has resources we require. Surrender and your species may continue to exist under our benevolent guidance. Resistance means extinction." The message repeated in every major Earth language before the screens returned to their previous displays. General West exhaled slowly. "Get me the president. And find me someone who knows something, anything, about these Zenturians." At the Berkeley SETI Institute, Dr. Elena Morgan sat alone in her dimly lit office, replaying the alien transmission for the 14th time. Unlike the military analysts and political leaders scrambling for response strategies, Elena wasn't focusing on the threats. Instead, she was watching the aliens' mouth movements, analyzing the audio patterns, and making extensive notes on the linguistic structures. Something was off, significantly off. Elena was the world's leading xenolinguist, though until today, her expertise had been entirely theoretical. She had developed advanced models for how alien communication might function based on evolutionary and mathematical principles. But now, faced with an actual alien transmission, her trained eye caught what others missed. The phone on her desk rang, startling her from her analysis. "Dr. Morgan," she answered distractedly. "This is General West from Pentagon Command. We need you in Washington immediately. A military transport will be at your location in 30 minutes. 6 hours later, Elena found herself in a secure briefing room deep beneath the White House, surrounded by military brass, intelligence officials, and emergency response coordinators. The president himself sat at the head of the table, face drawn with exhaustion. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, "we have less than 3 days before the Zenturians expect our surrender. I need options." The room erupted in overlapping voices: military strikes, diplomatic overtures, evacuation plans, until the president raised his hand for silence. "Dr. Morgan, the Pentagon tells me you have something important to share." Elena stood, suddenly aware of all eyes on her. She squared her shoulders and spoke clearly. "The Zenturians are lying," she said. "Or at least, they're not what they claim to be." The room fell silent. "Explain," the president said. Elena activated the room's display system, showing freeze frames from the transmission. Their mouth movements don't sync with the English words, not just from translation lag, but fundamental anatomical inconsistency. Their grammar is too perfect, lacking the natural variance of actual speech. They use Earth-centric terminology that no alien civilization would naturally develop. She switched to a spectrographic analysis. The audio contains embedded patterns that don't match the speech. It's as if there are two communication streams, the one we're meant to hear and another hidden beneath. General West frowned. "What exactly are you suggesting, Doctor?" "I'm suggesting that we may not be dealing with the overwhelming force they want us to believe they are. There are too many inconsistencies, too many errors that an advanced spacefaring civilization wouldn't make. They have ships hovering over our cities," the Secretary of Defense countered. "That seems pretty advanced to me." A soft voice came from the corner of the room. "Dr. Morgan may be onto something." All heads turned to Dr. Hiroshi Takeda, the quietly brilliant physicist who had been silently observing. "The ships defy our understanding of physics," Takeda continued, "but in ways that don't make sense, even for advanced technology. They produce no heat signature. They generate no detectable propulsion field. They appear to violate conservation of energy principles, which no technology, no matter how advanced, should be able to do." "So what? They're not real?" someone asked incredulously. "Oh, they're real," Takeda said, "but perhaps not as all-powerful as they want us to believe." The president leaned forward. "You're telling me this might be some kind of bluff?" "Not entirely," Elena clarified. "They're clearly advanced beyond our technology. They're here after all. But I believe they're exaggerating their capabilities to force our surrender without a fight." "Why would they do that?" West asked. "Because it's worked before," suggested CIA Director Walsh. "If their empire operates by intimidation rather than actual conquest, they'd perfect the art of the bluff." The president remained skeptical. "This theory is interesting, but we need proof before we risk the entire planet on it." "Then let's get proof," Elena said firmly. "The Zenturians made their first contact to man first. No questions about our civilization, no attempts at cultural exchange, just immediate demands for surrender. That's psychologically revealing. I think we should request a face-to-face meeting." "To what end?" West asked. "To observe them directly, to look for more inconsistencies, to test their reactions when we don't follow their script." After hours of debate, the president made his decision. Earth would neither surrender nor attack, yet. Instead, a small delegation would request a diplomatic meeting aboard the Chicago ship. 2 days later, Elena found herself boarding a small shuttle alongside General West, Dr. Takeda, and United Nations Secretary General Adamu. The craft ascended toward the massive Zenturian vessel looming above Chicago's skyline. "Remember," West whispered, "we're just gathering information. Don't agree to anything." The shuttle docked with surprising ease in a cavernous bay that seemed designed specifically for Earth vessels. Elena noted this curious compatibility, another inconsistency with the Zenturians' claims of having no previous contact with humans. They were escorted by tall, silent guards to a meeting chamber where High Commander Zextor awaited. In person, the alien was even more imposing, nearly 7 feet tall with an exoskeleton that gleamed under the chamber's lights. "Earth representatives," Zextor began without preamble, "you come to discuss surrender terms." "We come seeking understanding," Secretary General Adamu replied diplomatically. "Before making such a momentous decision for our planet, we wish to learn more about the Zenturian Empire and what becoming part of it would mean for humanity." Zextor seemed momentarily confused by this response, as if it didn't fit an expected pattern. "There is nothing to understand," the alien commander finally said. "You join or you perish. This is the way of the Empire." Elena studied the alien carefully. Its mandibles clicked in patterns that didn't match its spoken words. Dr. Takeda, meanwhile, was surreptitiously scanning the room with a small device concealed in his palm. "Perhaps a demonstration of your power would help convince our leaders," General West suggested smoothly. Zextor gestured to a wall, which transformed into a viewing screen. It displayed planets exploding, civilizations falling, and the Zenturian fleet dominating galaxy after galaxy. "This is the fate of those who resist," Zextor announced. Alina and Takeda exchanged glances. The physicist subtly shook his head. The physics of the displayed destructions were all wrong. Elementary mistakes that suggested the footage was fabricated. "Impressive," Alina said. "May we see your weapon systems?" The request seemed to please Zextor, who clearly interpreted it as fear. "Follow." They were led through corridors filled with technology that buzzed and pulsed impressively. But Alina noticed the Zenturian guards never actually touched any of the control panels, and Takeda's scanner, when he could risk a glance at it, showed energy readings far lower than what such advanced technology should produce. The tour culminated at what Zextor called their planetary cleansing array, a massive cannon that supposedly could reduce Earth to atoms. "One blast," Zextor boasted, "and your world ends." Takeda stepped forward, his scientific curiosity appearing genuine. "Fascinating. What energy source powers such a weapon?" Zextor launched into an explanation involving quantum harmonic resonance and dimensional flux acceleration, terms that made Takeda's eyebrows rise slightly. The explanation was scientifically nonsensical, stringing together impressive-sounding terms without coherent meaning. "You have seen our power," Zextor concluded as they returned to the meeting chamber. "You have one more Earth day to surrender, or we demonstrate our weapons on a small, uninhabited area of your planet." Back on Earth, the delegation immediately convened with the president. "They're bluffing," Takeda stated flatly. "Their technology is advanced, but nowhere near what they claim. Their weapon systems contain fundamental design flaws. Their explanations violate basic physics principles that even advanced technology would have to obey. Their guards carry impressive weapons," West added, "but I never saw them activated or handled in a way consistent with actual use. It's as if they're props." Alina spread out her notes. Their language patterns suggest they're reciting memorized lines, rather than engaging in genuine communication. When we deviated from their expected responses, they became confused. "So what are we dealing with?" the president asked. "A species that has developed interstellar travel," Takeda explained, "but has weaponized fear rather than developing actual planet-destroying technology. They've likely conquered other worlds through intimidation alone." "It would be an efficient strategy," Alina added. "Why develop expensive, resource-intensive weapons when the mere threat works just as well?" "Until they meet someone who calls their bluff," West said, a small smile forming. The president looked thoughtful. "So you're suggesting we—" "What? Tell them no?" "Not exactly," Alina said. "I have a different idea. One that uses their own tactics against them." As she outlined her plan, a spark of hope ignited in the room. The mighty Zenturian Empire had made a critical mistake. They had threatened a species that, throughout its history, had shown one consistent trait when backed into a corner. Humans don't scare easily, at least, not for long. The counterstrike. The final hours before the Zenturian deadline ticked away, but the atmosphere in the Pentagon's Secure Operations Center wasn't one of despair. It buzzed with focused energy. Dr. Elena Morgan hadn't slept in 36 hours, fueled by a combination of adrenaline and the knowledge that humanity's future might hinge on her understanding of alien communication patterns. "It's ready," she announced, looking up from her workstation. Her team of linguists and cryptographers had been working non-stop analyzing the hidden patterns in Zenturian transmissions. General West approached, coffee in hand. "Explain it to me again." The Zenturians embed command codes within their transmissions, subtle frequency modulations that don't register to the human ear but carry information. "We've isolated the pattern and created our own version." Elena gestured to the screen where complex waveforms pulsed. When they send their next ultimatum, we'll be ready. Across the room, Dr. Takeda led a different team focused on the Zenturian ship's technical vulnerabilities. The physicist had identified strange energy fluctuations in their propulsion systems, fluctuations that suggested a far less advanced technology than the aliens claimed. Their ships maintained position using a surprisingly conventional gravitic system, Takeda explained to the president during the hourly briefing. Advanced compared to our technology, yes, but nowhere near the reality-bending capabilities they boast of. More importantly, we've detected regular energy surges that suggest their systems require periodic recharging. Weaknesses, the president said thoughtfully. Precisely, Takeda nodded. No civilization, no matter how advanced, completely transcends the laws of physics. The Zenturians just hope we're too intimidated to look for the holes in their facade. At exactly noon, the deadline for Earth's surrender, the Zenturian ships began broadcasting simultaneously worldwide. High Commander Zextor's image appeared on communication systems everywhere. Your time has expired, the alien announced. You have not submitted to Zenturian authority. Now witness the consequence of defiance. Instead of responding with either surrender or defiance, Earth executed Elena's plan. As the Zenturian transmission continued, Earth's communication arrays activated, sending a precisely calibrated countersignal that incorporated the Zenturian's own command frequencies, but with subtle alterations. On the main screen, Zextor's image flickered. The alien's speech faltered momentarily, mandibles clicking in confusion. What's happening? The president asked. Elena smiled tightly. We're speaking their hidden language back to them, but we're introducing errors that their systems are trying to automatically correct. It's creating a feedback loop. The Zenturian transmission abruptly cut off. For 30 tense minutes, nothing happened. The ships remained in position, but silent. Then a new transmission came through, this one only to the Pentagon's secure channel. Zextor appeared, but the alien commander's composure had visibly slipped. Cease your interference with our communications, Zextor demanded. This is your final warning. The president looked to Elena, who nodded confidently. Stay the course, he ordered. Earth's countersignal continued, now incorporating additional elements that Takeda's team had developed, pulses designed to interact with the energy fluctuations in the Zenturian ships. They're responding exactly as predicted, Elena said, monitoring the incoming data. Their systems are attempting to compensate for what they perceive as errors in their own communication network. It's consuming significant energy. Within hours, the first visible sign of Elena's strategy appeared. The Zenturian ship over Sydney began to drift slightly, its perfect positioning faltering. Their stabilization systems are being affected, Takeda confirmed. They're diverting power to counteract our signal interference. General West allowed herself a small smile. Time for Phase 2. While the communication counterattack continued, Earth's military forces executed a carefully coordinated series of maneuvers. Fighter jets approached the Zenturian vessels at precise vectors, never firing but performing complex flight patterns that forced the alien ships to constantly adjust their defensive postures. Simultaneously, ground-based radar installations bombarded the ships with varying frequencies, creating a kaleidoscope of conflicting sensor data for the Zenturians to process. We're not attacking them, West explained to the civilian leadership. We're confusing them, making them burn through resources trying to track and analyze our movements. In the command center, Elena worked with an international team to refine their communication strategy. They had discovered something remarkable. The Zenturians' translation systems were largely automated, with much less sophistication than initially assumed. They're not actually fluent in our languages, Elena explained. They rely on advanced translation algorithms. By introducing specific linguistic anomalies into our responses, we're forcing their systems to continuously recalibrate. 12 hours into this multi-pronged psychological operation, the Zenturians responded as Elena had predicted. The ships over Chicago, Beijing, and Caro simultaneously announced they would demonstrate their planet-destroying capabilities on an uninhabited area of the Sahara Desert. The world watched as a beam of energy shot from the Caro ship toward the designated desert region. The result was impressive, a massive explosion and shockwave visible from space, but Takeda's instruments told a different story. Conventional explosives, he reported, analyzing the data. Powerful, yes, equivalent to perhaps 50 of our largest conventional bombs detonated simultaneously, but nothing close to their claimed capability of planetary destruction. And look at the energy readings from the Caro ship now. The displays showed the ship's power signature diminished significantly after the blast. They've expended a substantial portion of their energy reserves, Takeda said. That one demonstration cost them dearly. The president turned to his advisors. So they can't actually destroy the planet. They could cause significant damage to cities, certainly, Takeda acknowledged. But no, they cannot reduce Earth to atoms as claimed, and each attack would deplete their resources further. More importantly, Elena added, they just revealed their actual capabilities rather than their claimed ones. The gap is significant. The president made his decision. Intensify all operations. I want every ship in their fleet struggling to maintain basic functions within 24 hours. Then we'll open a new diplomatic channel. The next day brought visible changes to the Zenturian presence. Several ships had drifted noticeably out of position. Others displayed fluctuating energy fields that Takeda identified as failing shield systems. Their communications became increasingly fragmented as Earth's counter-signals disrupted their network. Finally, a clearly agitated Zextor requested another meeting, this time with the president directly, against the advice of his security team. But with Elena, Takeda, and West at his side, the president agreed to a video conference rather than an in-person meeting. Your primitive interference must cease, Zextor demanded without preamble. The president remained calm. We've had the opportunity to analyze your capabilities more thoroughly, Commander. I think it's time for an honest conversation about the actual terms of our relationship moving forward. You dare to dictate terms to the Zenturian Empire. Zextor's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of agitation that Elena had identified. We dare to negotiate as equals, the president replied smoothly. Unless you prefer, we continue our current activities while we wait for your ship's power reserves to deplete entirely. Silence fell as Zextor visibly struggled with this unexpected turn of events. What do you want? The alien finally asked, all pretense of overwhelming superiority gone. First, the truth, the president said. What is the actual extent of your empire? What are your real capabilities? And why come to Earth at all? The revelation, when it finally came, transformed humanity's understanding of their place in the galaxy. The Zenturian Empire consisted of just 78 ships. They had indeed conquered several worlds, but through deception rather than overwhelming force. Their technology was advanced, particularly in propulsion and communications, but far from the godlike powers they claimed. They had come to Earth seeking resources, but also refuge. They were running from something. There are others in the galaxy far more powerful than us, Zextor admitted reluctantly. We stay ahead of them by acquiring new resources and technology from worlds like yours. We expected the same pattern we've seen on dozens of other planets. Immediate surrender after our initial show of force. You didn't do your homework on humans, General West said dryly. Over the next several days, a remarkable shift occurred. With their bluff called, the Zenturians proved to be pragmatic negotiators. Earth would provide limited resources in exchange for specific technologies, particularly faster-than-light travel concepts that would otherwise have taken humanity centuries to develop independently. The Zenturian ships gradually departed, leaving only 3 in Earth orbit as part of the newly established cultural exchange program. In her office at Berkeley, now significantly expanded and upgraded, Dr. Elena Morgan reviewed the latest Zenturian language database. She had become Earth's foremost expert on extraterrestrial communication and the unofficial ambassador to the Zenturians. "You know what's ironic?" she said to Dr. Takeda, who had stopped by on his way to a physics conference. "By trying to conquer us, they actually accelerated human development by at least a century." Takeda nodded, and provided us with invaluable information about other species in the galaxy, including the ones they're running from. Elena's computer chimed with an incoming message. The latest intelligence report from the Joint Earth-Centurion Deep Space Monitoring Network. 3 massive vessels of unknown design had been detected at the edge of the solar system. "Speaking of which," she said, scanning the report, "it seems we might get to test our new defensive capabilities sooner than expected." Takeda read over her shoulder, his expression turning serious. "These energy signatures are nothing like the Zenturians." "No," Elena agreed. "There's something else entirely." She reached for her secure phone to contact General West. "But thanks to our friends who tried to bluff us into submission, we're not going into this blind." As she dialed, Elena couldn't help but smile at the cosmic irony. The mighty Zenturian Empire had indeed changed humanity's destiny, just not in the way they had intended. Their attempt to conquer Earth through deception had instead awakened humanity to the broader galactic community, accelerated technological development, and prepared them for the real threats lurking among the stars. The Zenturians had become a footnote in humanity's ascension, the empire that tried to crush humanity with lies, only to become the catalyst for human expansion into the cosmos. As news of the approaching unknown vessels spread through Earth's defense network, there was none of the panic that had accompanied the Zenturian arrival. Instead, a quiet determination took hold, the determination of a species that had faced extinction, called the bluff, and emerged stronger. Whatever came next, humanity was ready. And somewhere in deep space, the remnants of the once proud Zenturian Empire spread word to other spacefaring races. "Be wary of the humans of Earth. They do not scare easily, and they learn very, very quickly."